You know, I have searched and searched and searched of a really good in-depth walkthrough of the pre-flight inspection of a DA-42 Diamond Twin Star. And you know what I found? Nothing! Like, really, YouTube? Really? Really? Had there have been a video, it probably would have helped me a lot with the inspection, as many other tutorial videos that helped me understand subjects of aviation that I didn't quite understand previously, like for example, instrument rating videos. So, hey everyone, Aero Nerd here, getting my multi-engine add-on to my commercial license in the Twin Star. I've pre-flighted this aircraft many times, and I'd like to share with you Twin Star pilots how I do my pre-flight inspection. Disclaimer, I am not a CFI. So, that being said, please don't hold me accountable for anything I may have missed or did not explain clearly. And if I didn't explain something clearly, please leave it in the comments below and I will clarify any questions that you may have. Also, be advised that there are many other methods to pre-flight this aircraft, so please don't shoot me down if my procedures are a little bit different than yours. If they are different than yours, then hey, make a video, since there's not really much out there. For the Twin Star. Maybe we can have a competition of who can make the best Twin Star pre-flight video. So here she is with all of her glory, the DA-42NG for new generation Diamond Twin Star, powered by the two Austro AE300 E4B turbo diesel engines, producing a whopping 168 horsepower. Alright, first things first, I'm going to get down here to the left landing gear and I'm going to check the landing gear strut, the uplock and the downlock switches, as well as the squat switches, the tire, wheel, brake hydraulic line, and the gear door linkage to make sure all that's good. That right there is the uplock switch. That's the downlock switch right there. I'm going to be checking the hydraulic lines and make sure all that's good to go. One of them is going to be the hydraulic line, and then the other one's going to be for the squat switch. Make sure the exhaust is good right there. Now this little vent on top of the exhaust, that is a intake. The air goes in there, the engine heats up that air, and it goes up to the windshield defrosters. And then the other side goes to the cabin heat. So that's how the cabin gets its heat. Wing diffusers, just make sure you're not missing more than one. Check the exhaust back here, make sure there's nothing blocking it or obstructing it. Making sure all of these screws are in place for the engine cowling. Down there is the big radiator for the coolant heat exchanger. The little vent on top of the coolant heat exchanger is where the engine cowling gets its air. Make sure all the screws and bolts are all attached and intact. This is a wooden propeller. This type of propeller has a really funky technical name. It's actually the MTV 6 RCF propeller. The MT is manufacturer, the V is variable pitch, 6 is basic type, the F is for, or no, I'm sorry, the R is for the R-type flange, C is the counterweights that help the feathering process, and F is full feathering propeller. That's the intake for the engine. The top is for the intake, and the bottom half of that is for the intercooler for the turbo. Now we're going to be looking at the checking the engine, and the oil for the gearbox is kind of weird, tucked back in there. Can't really see it because it's too dark, but then you're going to be checking the oil. Take out the oil dipstick. You want to make sure that the oil is in between 5 and 7 liters, or 7.4 to in between 7.4 and 5.3 liters. I'm sorry, quarts. But I mean, you'll see a little line, just like any other dipstick. This is your gas collector. You want to make sure make sure there's no water in your tanks. Now this is Jet A1 fuel. Now it is clear, doesn't have any oh, that was one of the points, by the way. And then down here is actually to the underneath the wing. That's the main tank right there. But some of you may be wondering, how do you tell between the fuel and if there's water, if they're both clear? Well, just take a cup of water and put some baby oil in there. They're both clear. Trust me, you'll be able to tell the difference. Coming up here, and last check of the left engine, we're going to check the left leading edge on the wing. That's going to be your stall indicator right there. Making sure there's no nicks and damages. As I said, this is going to be Jet A. There's actually two types of fuel. It's going to be Jet A and Jet A1. The difference between the two is one's probably a little bit more expensive because it has a lower freezing point. Looking at the pitot heat, make sure everything's good there. Looking at the wing, make sure there's no obvious damages right there. The static wicks, make sure they're all good in place. Now we're going to go below the wings. We're going to be looking for three static chargers. Three total. There's one there. There's one, and there's two more inboard in the wing. It does say to move the aileron like that, but I just want to make sure that there's no obstructions in there. The reason why that's like that is actually a counterweight for the aileron, and it actually is served for adverse yaw. So there's one of the static wicks right there. Here's the linkages right there. That little itty bitty tiny little dot, you want to make sure that there's actually a pin in there, because that's what's actually holding the whole flap right there. The whole flap is actually split into two different flaps. It's a plain flap, and then the inboard flap is actually a split flap, which actually creates a little bit more drag. The reason why they have that is so you know, you can actually step on there and not worry about stepping on and breaking the flap. That right there is the fuel cooler. The fuel for this aircraft is pressurized a lot, as it is a diesel engine. But not all the fuel is used, so when it's returned back to the fuel tank, it needs to be cooled down, because as you pressurize anything, it gets really hot, and the last thing you want to do is return really hot fuel back in your gas tanks. Now this is the static port. One of the static ports. There's one on the other side too. You just want to make sure that those are good. There's the antennas, one ELT, one COM1, and there's your COM2 antenna down there. Moving the camera to the left, you have your transponder and your marker beacon antenna. And moving on down to the empennage, we're going to check our elevator and rudder hinges, our elevator trim, rudder trim, tail skid, make sure that's not damaged. Check all of our three static dischargers, and of course remove our tail tie down. That's going to be the electric or the static discharge, for in case we got struck by lightning. With discharge right there. Got our elevator trim up there is our other static wick. Moving on down, got a little edge right there to help catch the air a little bit for the rudder trim. Helps that. And now that we're transitioned over to the right side, you're literally just going to rinse and repeat. Everything you did on the left side, you're going to be doing on the right side. The one thing I did skip on the left side that I just forgot to mention was the gasculator on the bottom of the auxiliary tanks, which is right there. So you drain a little bit there, make sure there's no water mixture, and you unlock that. Put it back in there, and make sure you do lock that, lock the auxiliary tanks back there again. I've almost jacked up the checklist one time because I forgot to lock that back. Everything else is the same. This right here, this panel right there, is to protect the fuselage in case you get some ice on the propeller. Of course, if you get any ice on the propeller while it's turning, you know, it's going to slap against the fuselage. So that's that little panel right there will protect it. Again, that vent right there is going to be collecting the heat, and that's actually going to be connected to the floor in the back of the cabin, or below the passenger seats. So that's how the cabin gets heat. Right there, we're going to be looking at the squat switches, which I failed to mention. What these do is they tell the aircraft whether or not it's sitting on the ground or not. So it's on the ground. The left one controls the landing gear. So if you were to accidentally hit the landing lever up in the up position, the landing gear would not come up because the aircraft would know that it's on the ground. And the right one limits the pitot heat to 50%, because if you're taxiing, you should have the pitot heat on according to the checklist. Here we're going to be looking at the nose strut. That's the steering recenter mechanism right there. Going to be looking up the strut, and there's actually 4 up-down limiter switches. And there's one right there behind the wires there, and I apologize about if the camera's going to be going crazy right now. If you guys haven't thrown up or anything by now, you guys are probably good candidates for being a pilot, because it can get crazy up there and your stomach can get weak. But there's the switch number 2, number 3. Oh my gosh, I can't even look at this thing while I'm editing. This is really... where's the... oh, there it is. There's the third one right there, and the fourth one is going to be way up there. And there's your fourth switch right there. You definitely want to make sure that those are intact, because if you put your landing gear down or up, you will not get 3 green or red, or you'll just have a red because of those switches right there. Either that they're failing or something's not going right. So you definitely want to make sure that those are good. The external power connector, you want to make sure that those are good in case you have any kind of battery issues or whatnot. You need to start. You can hook up to external battery or external power source, and that is it. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump inside. First thing I do is I go on the rear door. I want to make sure it's locked. It can lock. You press that little button and you open up the door. and there it is. Put my stuff in there. To close it, you want to make sure it's locked right there. It has like 2 knot locking mechanisms, and there's the second one when you put the lever back in. So going up to the front, let's see what we got here. So this is the cabin checklist. Make sure everything is off. So starting with the auxiliary pumps, you want to make sure that those are off. Moving on up to the trim, you want to make sure the trim is centered. The fuel selector valves, you want to make sure that those are both on. Throttles up and idle. Defrost and cabin heat both off, and park and brake off. Rudder trim is centered, landing gear lever is down, avionics and master switch is off, engine master left and right is both off, pitot heat is off, alternator on, your ECU voter switches are going to be set to auto. Now your lights up here, you want to make sure that those rotary knobs are twisted all the way to the left. All exterior lights are off, including your emergency battery. Make sure that's set to off and safety wired. Your ELT is going to be set to auto. All of your circuit breakers are going to be in. Flaps up. You want to look down here and make sure your alternator air is in. Your fuel pumps are going to be off, and you want to check down here to make sure your emergency lever is all the way in, and also your alternate static source is in the correct position. So that's pretty much it for a short pre-flight of the Twin Star. Stay tuned for my next videos as you will journey with me in this aircraft doing commercial maneuvers, landings, VMC demos, barrel rolls, and I'm kidding, but let's get airborne, shall we?
Phoenix 806, fly runway heading 7 left at Papa 5, clear for takeoff.
Runway heading 7 left, clear for takeoff. Phoenix here 806.
You know, I really hope this video helped someone out there. Even if it helped 1 out of 1,000 viewers, you know, that makes me satisfied. Thank you for all my Aero Nerd fans from way back when I was filming my first solo flight to today flying tail wheels and twin engines. My goal after getting my multi is seaplane rating, and then I'm going to be looking into some aerobatic lessons. And then once I post enough videos and I get enough viewers subscribed and liked my channels and everything, hopefully I'll get Elon Musk's attention, and he'll probably give me a call to have me fly one of his spaceships to Mars. Hopefully, hey, one can dream, right? But serious, a true humble moment for me though. I checked my viewers, my subscribers the other day, and I realized I had 800 subscribers. I was like, wow! So thank you. May not seem like a lot, but to me that is a lot. As always, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for my next video. Until then, fly safe.